Okay, guys, welcome to our show. Today we're going to talk about the EB2 NIW and the 5 steps for a successful EB2 NIW application. Hi, Johannes. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing very well. How about you, Luis?
We are doing good. Yeah, we are happy to have you here in our first meeting about the EB2 NIW, the first record meeting. And I hope in the end we can show for our audience the 5 steps for a successful EB2 NIW application, right? I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, and that will be helpful because we're gonna show a very well structure for the EB2 NIW. And yeah, tell me, I'm sharing my screen right now, and I hope everybody can see our screen right now, and we are recording and sharing the screen. Okay, you want to start speaking about something, a presentation about you and about our office, Johannes? What do you think?
Absolutely. So, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for this invitation. And the EB2 NIW program has been gaining a lot of traction in recent years. This is for a number of reasons. I would say first and foremost because the immigration system has been increasingly backlogged. In fact, as of today, if you file a regular EB2 petition, it takes you from 12 to 18 months only to get the perm labor certification completed, right? And that's not even filing anything with USCIS yet, right? That's only with the Department of Labor. So for this reason and many others, we've seen a steady increase in demand, and we've been helping um, many different applicants from various fields with their successful EB2 NIW petition. And so today we'd like to take this chance to share some of the insights we've gained throughout our experience in this field with you guys so that you don't make any of the mistakes or avoid the common pitfalls, and hopefully get yourself one of those successful EB2 NIW petitions on file and join the club with our clients.
Awesome. Yeah, I would like to ask also people who are attending the this video now to share this video with someone who is interested in a green card on the EB2 NIW, and subscribe the channel and give you a likes, a thumbs up in the video also. That help us in the algorithm of YouTube to people to find our video better, right? Okay, let's go through the 5 steps, and let's go to the first step, which would be determine your eligibility, which is a very important one, right? In every meeting we have with potential leads, potential clients, I think that's the first and a very important step, because if somebody passes this step, it's okay. Now you have a chance to get a EB2 NIW visa, and you can get a chance of get a green card through the EB2 category. And that's a first and a very important step. What do you think?
Absolutely. That's what we do day in and day out, helping clients figure out not only whether they are eligible for this type of program, but also how they could be eligible, right? So I don't want to, talk only about the legal requirements of this program because, it's the internet is full of this type of videos. What we do at our office is a tailored approach towards the candidate's experience, expertise, and also future plans, of course, right? So not only are we able to help you in assessing whether your profile meets the strict criteria on paper, which are fairly easy to meet. Usually, it's a master degree or a bachelor degree with 5 years of experience. That's something that we take as a given, but also what would you like to do in the US as soon as your green card is approved? And
Mhm.
how does this have a substantial merit and national importance, right, to it?
Exactly.
So this is what we do. We help, obviously, drafting endeavors. We've seen many, many different successful endeavors. We know what works with USCS, so we are able to pinpoint our clients in the right direction and pursue endeavors that make a difference, both for the country, but also for their immigration status.
Okay, and I think that's the first step we have to do, right? Ensure you qualify under the EB2 NIW category, advanced degree, or exceptional ability. And then there's this important step here, which is some people doesn't have a clue what it is, and that's normal because this legislation and the immigration system in US sometimes is not so clear. And that's why we like to tell people you have to demonstrate that your work has substantial merit and national importance to the US. That's a very important point because sometimes people is very well qualified, but they don't know how to get their whole experience and transform that in a good project to the United States with a substantial merit and a national importance to the US. That's a crucial step. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And in fact, one of the sad things that we see in our practice is also that we see valuable candidates who have great resumes, a great career, coming to us with an RFE simply because they didn't understand exactly what they had to do in the first place, right? So it's very important to go back to step number one and understand substantial merit and national importance, right? So there's a number of criteria that USCIS looks at when determining whether your application does have substantial merit. There's a number of different sectors where um, substantial merit can be identified. One of the most popular ones is a research endeavor, right? So anytime you have an academic background, you advance sciences, you have publications, you have citations, all of that, that's a prima facie substantial merit endeavor, right? So this will be recognized by USCIS right away. On the other hand, obviously, not everyone has an academic background. They are great to have, but they're not mandatory, right? There's a number of different endeavors that you can have and backgrounds that do satisfy this criteria, right? So, for instance, you could be an entrepreneur. An
Mhm.
entrepreneurial endeavor could also have substantial merit, right? So this needs to be identified on a case-by-case basis. But absolutely, it's a rock solid requirement, and applications do get RFE'd or denied on that point, right?
Exactly.
In addition to that, you have the national importance, right? Which is in the name of this program, right? NIW stands for National Interest Waiver, right? This is at the core of your petition. So usually when you apply for a employment-based green card, you need to have a job offer requirement, right? But here, the government is willing to waive that because of your endeavor that has national importance, right? So national importance means that essentially your endeavor, which by the way is a fancy way for saying project, needs to have an impact that goes beyond the people that immediately work with you, right? Like, so let's say if you have a job and like your work only has an impact within your organization, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to be a national importance type of endeavor, right? We are looking for an impact that goes beyond that. So this could be, for instance, what we've seen being very successful, a consulting firm, right? So for instance, a consulting firm that advises other individuals, that advises other businesses on a certain aspect, by definition, has a far greater reach, has a potential to reach far more people, and therefore it is much easier to recognize for an USCIS officer that national importance element, right? In addition to that, last but not least, what we've also seen in our practice is that USCIS does tend to look for a financial benefit as well, right? So anytime you are arguing national importance, it's always beneficial to say, okay, I'm going to, essentially bring investments into the US, or I'm going to create US based jobs. Those types of endeavors are always greatly appreciated because you are basically saying instead of taking away a job from a US worker by getting a green card, I'm creating new jobs, I'm bringing new funds into the economy, and therefore I deserve to get that NIW.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because sometimes when the candidate arrive to us and come to us, they normally don't have a very clear idea what kind of project they can build to achieve this national importance. And then I think with our insights and with our point of view and our experience is much clear are the first after the first meeting how to we can apply this specific point in his project, right? I think in the end of the day, a lot of like different projects has a national importance, but sometimes we have to shift a little bit the point to point them in the right direction. And I think it makes a lot of difference. In the first like meeting we have, sometimes people arrive with no clue what they're gonna do, but with some words and with some insights after the first meeting, they start to understand a little bit more about this concept and they know how to apply that in their specific case, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this I've already touched on. Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
no, another point in your like our conversation today, it proves that waiving the job offer in labor certification benefits to the US, right?
Hmm.
That's a very important point also because in the end of the day, everybody needs to have a process through the labor certification to get a green card or to have a work authorization. What we are doing in the EB2 NIW is deception, right? We are telling, okay, my project is so wonderful, it's so good to us, and you build something new and very powerful for in the US, and that's I can prove that, and that will be waiving the job offer in the labor certification. At the end of the day, the EB2 National Interest Waiver, it's something special, right? And that's the whole point about the application. You need to show
Exactly.
the specially conditions of your application.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something to really keep in mind, simply because from the officer's perspective, when they are reviewing a petition, they have this in the back of their mind, right? So there
Absolutely.
needs to be this type of benefit for the US, potential of to create jobs, potential to, positively impact the economy, because otherwise the officer might ask himself, if this person is so amazing and have has such a great endeavor, why isn't he or her able to find a job, right? So
Mhm.
we really need to switch our mindset into something that really adds value rather than just, being a shortcut to avoiding finding a job, right?
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, you're right on. Yeah. And the next step now is gather supporting evidence. That's a very important step because we must have a good experience and a good story to tell the officer and tell the immigration, the USCIS. But in the end of the day, we have to present, you have to prove, and you need to give USCIS supporting evidence. And that's very important.
Yes, 100%. So, you know, as a general guideline for any type of legal document, if you are unable to prove your claims are worthless, right? So
Exactly.
this is no different when it comes to immigration law, in particular to this type of petitions.
Mhm.
So so yeah, obviously, the academic degree is something that is fairly easy to prove. Our candidates typically come with a master degree,
Mhm.
some with a bachelor, but I would say the wide majority with a master degree.
Mhm.
Among those, I would say a good 60 to 70% has a US degree, so it doesn't create any additional workload in terms of certifying or translating that degree. In the case of a foreign degree, there's a little bit of more work to do. It's usually not a particular type of issue, but it's something that has to be taken care of, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that's
Sometimes the EB2 NIW has this specific point is academic degree certifications or proof of exceptional ability. Some people does don't have the academic degree, but they have such a evidence of exceptional ability, which is easy to prove they are exceptional person in their field, right? And that's something very important too. People sometimes they think, oh, I must have, uh, okay, a master degree or a PhD. No, if you have a bachelor's degree with 5 years of experience, or you can prove you're exceptional in your field, you can get a EB2 NIW, you can get a visa in the future, a green card, right?
absolutely. So, it's not limited to those who hold those degrees. I would say the wide majority do, but absolutely don't be discouraged by the lack thereof. Reach out and we'll have a chat.
Mhm. Let's talk about letters of recommendation from experts in your field. That's a question, very common question. All the candidates ask us how many letters I must have, what kind of people need to write these letters, what of the content of these letters. There's so many doubts about these letters. And yeah, let's clarify a little bit for them what means letters of recommendation of experts in your field, right? I think it's very clear for me. Okay, if somebody write me a letter, and if I'm a doctor, for example, if somebody write me a letter saying my research or my work is exceptional and he knows I achieved this and that, this person must to be credentials, have credentials. I mean, to be a very good letter, this person needs to write in the letter or in the cover letter or in the somehow they have to write their credentials. That's very important because in the end of the day, what the immigrant agent wants to see is like, okay, is this person uh, who's writing this letter, he knows about the subject, he has the capacity to write this letter. I think that's a very important point too. It's like, this balance between what's the content of the letter and who is writing this letter, what the credentials this person has to write this letter, right?
Absolutely. So, I think you got it right. This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions during our consultations, right? So let's try to shed some light on that. Obviously, all of these petitions, right? When we talk about EB2 EB2 NIWs, EB1s, they are tailored petitions to your profile, right? So there's no one fits all type of solutions. We need to work with the candidate to assess what the best solutions is. And in practice, you can run into a number of issues, right? I mean, we've drafted in the past amazing letters of recommendation, and then when it was time to sign them, the person that was supposed to sign them just didn't sign them, didn't agree with the content, et cetera, et cetera. So what we need to do anytime we are talking about letters of recommendations, which are actually essential to any petition, right? They're at the core of what we're trying to prove. We need to work with you to understand who are the people best suited to, first of all, issue a letter of recommendation. It's going to depend on your endeavor, right? People sometimes ask me, do I need to have a professor issuing a letter of recommendation, right? And I tell them, well, I mean, if your endeavor is of academic nature, then yes, you should probably have more than one. But if your endeavor is purely business related, you may not necessarily need one, right? So this needs to be really assessed on an individual basis. Usually, in our experience, what works best is quality over quantity, right? So you want to have 5 to 6
100%.
quality letters that are right on, right to the point of your endeavor, saying that you have experience in this field, ideally that you have um, managed projects that are like or similar to the endeavor that we're proposing, and that therefore you will not only be conducting an endeavor in a national interest, but you are the right person to actually implement this endeavor. And this is also essential, right? Because USCIS does not like to be a guinea pig. You could have an amazing endeavor, but if you are a newbie at this field and you have no real world experience, this is not going to be approved, right? So, so the letters of recommendation are excellent to prove that you are well positioned, like the law says, to pursue this endeavor. So, as we said, 5 to 6 letters. Usually, we would say half and half, half from experts in the field and half from people who work with you directly and maybe had a more closer relationship. Also, as we said, quality over quantity. Of course, the title of the person issuing the letter matters, but it only matters as long as the letter has a content that we are looking for, right? If you are able to get a letter from the CEO of an MNC, but then the content is not aligned with what we're trying to prove, then this letter is worthless, right? Then it's better to lower the corporate ladder and go for someone who's able to issue the content we need, right? So that's why I always say this has to be discussed individually. There's no solution that fits all, but there's a number of guidelines that we can implement and, point candidates in the right direction, I would say.
100%. And the next one is evidence of your impact, publications, award, media recognition, projects, etc. I think, in my opinion, this changes a lot for each people, right? Each person. We cannot say everyone has a similar documentation, similar awards, publications, or projects in their work life, in their career. And that needs to be very specific for that candidate, right? We need to find in their whole career what are the evidence of their impact in their career, right? And we have to push that and put that in a way of the immigration officer will understand, and we're gonna see him as a person who has his skills and can make this work go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, one of the elements that people tend to forget is that these types of petition, I would say the EB2 NIW definitely has this element, but even more so the EB1, is that not only do you need to have outstanding skills, but also you need to have some sort of visibility, right? Like for the EB2, it's not as stringent. You don't necessarily need to have all these publications or awards. Of course, they're nice to have because, this type of uh, recognitions, they really, build up your reputation. They give you a lot of credibility. So they're gonna make it easier for us to prove what we have discussed previously, but they're not a must, I would say. For DB1, on the other hand, those criteria are specifically laid out, and if you don't have awards, you don't have publications, et cetera, then you should probably not apply for DB1, right? So what we always tell people is that make sure not only to be an outstanding professional, but also make sure that you have some sort of visibility, that your work got recognition, ideally beyond the people that directly work with you. So we're talking about, outside your organization, right? So, organizations that awarded you um, a prize, or media that discussed your projects, publications, et cetera, et cetera.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go now for proof of how your work benefits the US in a national scale. There's another point, it's very important, Joe. Not all projects can do that, right? We need to find a project or endeavor is the word more usual in this case, which can benefit the US in a national scale. That's a very important point. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I think we touched upon it earlier already, but absolutely, it's very important. There's a number of ways you can prove that what we do, among others, is we help candidates draft either a business plan or a personal plan. And in these plans, we lay out in detail what type of benefit the United States can expect from this endeavor, right? It needs to be, I would say, tangible, right? Like it needs to be something that is clear to the reader, which is a USCIS officer. It needs to be realistic. So you don't want to, file a petition with a business plan that contains numbers that are just simply too optimistic, right? It needs to be um, impactful, realistic, credible, straight to the point, right? So for a business plan, obviously, as we discussed previously, financial types of benefits can be added in the form of a table, right? Like we can say, okay, in year one, we're gonna turn around X amount of dollars. Year two, Y amount of dollars. We're gonna add US workers at this stage. We're going to be promoting investment, inbound investments, et cetera, right?
Mhm. Yep. Okay. Let me see. Okay, we got that. And then we're gonna get to the third step, which preparing and file your case. That's the time we're gonna gather all the information we get, and we're gonna put in a way of the officer you're gonna understand and it's gonna be easy for them to understand what's the endeavor, what's the documents are there, and that's a very important step. But basically, what we do, we organize everything in a very nice way, in a technical way also, and easy to the officer understand, right? And the first step of all this preparation is complete the form I-140, right? And that's a very important step because that's the form we need to prepare to do the application.
Yes, indeed. It's one of the many documents that are going to be in your package, right? On the top. So, anything related to immigration starts with a form. Who who in the audience has already filed for any sort of immigration benefit in the US has filled out a form, right? So the EB2 NIW is no different. Um, it's something that we definitely help our clients with. So usually we fill it out, our clients review it and sign it if they agree with what we have stated.
Okay, and then we're going to submit our required supporting documentation. It's time to put everything together in a beautiful fold and send to SCIS.
Exactly. And those packages, they contain everything that we've discussed until now, right? So usually they look something like this. They are pretty thick, full of documents and ready for review. So we send those in paper to USCIS in Texas, and then we wait to hear back from them.
Yeah, but don't forget, we have to pay the necessary filing fees and submit to SCIS also. And
Exactly.
sometimes people take it for granted, and there is a lot of different forms and a lot of different necessary filling payments, right? Uh,
Exactly. So you want to make sure that you file your petition with all fees, otherwise it will be rejected right away.
okay. And then we're gonna wait for USS decision and respond to any RFE, which is a request for evidence if needed. Sometimes the officer has some doubts, or sometimes he understands there's not enough information, and they request more evidence. It's not a denial, That's very important to say. It's not a denial. F-35 is sometimes is opportunity for you make something clear, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, no one likes to receive an RFE,
Mhm.
but as you said, it's an opportunity to clarify and respond in detail to what the officer is asking you for. Obviously, ideally, you want to make sure everything is as detailed as possible in your first submission, right? Because that's when you have most freedom to act. You are not under pressure. But, even us, when we do file, we sometimes receive an RFE, right? Because that's just unavoidable. That's just the way the system works. So when you receive an RFE, most important thing is obviously address it right away because they come with strict deadlines. And if you do not respond within the deadline, your application will be considered abandoned. So that's number one. Contact your attorney right away. They will guide you on how to respond to the RFE and hopefully put you on a path to approval.
Okay, awesome. And in the end of the day, what you want is apply for a green card, adjustment of status or consular processing, right? That's the end of the case, all right? Is the when you get a approval, I-104 approval, and you are ready to apply for a green card, right? And if you are outside of United States, there is one more step, which you apply for the I-485 adjustment of status when a visa number is available, right? That's you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, so that's for within the US, right? So
Yes.
if you are
Yeah.
in the US, clients always ask us, does the I-140
Yeah.
approval grant me status in the US? But
You-
unfortunately, it does not. You need to wait until your priority date becomes current, right? That's very important. And those priority dates, they vary based on the type of application. So you want to look at the visa bulletin for employment-based second preference. That's the EB2 NIW related category. Right now, the backlog is about 2 years.
Mhm.
However, for certain nationalities, it can get much, much longer. So unfortunately, for our friends from India, the current waiting time is about 12 years, right? So that's the time that, passes from the I-140 approval until they can actually file for a green card, right? But once you finally see your dates on the visa bulletin, it's time to cheer because that's when you can move forward, file the I-485 adjustment of status, and that will put you on a path to a green card right away.
Yeah.
So if you do it from the US, it's a fairly straightforward and quick process. If you do it from outside, which is the next point, it's slightly longer. The wide majority of our clients are already within the US, but there's no wrong in filing it via consular processing. If you do it via consular processing, the US mission overseas will issue an immigrant visa, and so once you arrive to the US, you will then receive your green card in the mail. So
Yeah.
it's just slightly longer, but there's no material difference other than that.
Yeah, another point too, if you are outside of the United States, you're gonna have a consular interview. That's
Absolutely,
it's
yes.
one more step, right? You have to have a consular interview, which the consul can ask any questions for you related to your life and your process, right? And
Yeah, absolutely. You are dealing with the Department of State before dealing with USCS, right? If you are in the US, you deal with USCS only, right? So that makes it easier. It's only one government agency.
that was how I did, right? My case is exactly like that. I did my interview through a consular processing, and yeah, I have this experience. Uh, Now I'm an American citizen after many years here in the country, but I had this experience to pass through a consular processing. Yeah. Uh,
Exactly. And you're here, right? So it means
yeah,
it works.
exactly. Once approved, you will receive a permanent residence, the green card. That's a very important
Exactly.
point. If you are outside of the United States, you're gonna receive a visa and you're gonna receive your green card when you arrive here in your specific address where you're gonna go. But if you are in the US, you're gonna receive a green card through mail,
Exactly.
right? And that's where these five steps for a successful EB2 NIW application. Johannes, thank you very much. I think we have a good conversation. I think our audience can understand a little bit better what the EB2 NIW stands for. And I would like to ask everybody who liked this video, please share with someone who can be interested in this subject. And don't forget to subscribe our channel also and visit our website, lazzaroimmigration.com. I'll be putting our website link below this video.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Luis. It was a great opportunity. Looking forward to more of those.
Yeah, and if you guys want to know a little bit more about any subject about the EB2NIW, the EB1, or any high skill immigration visas, please leave the comments below the questions. And the next week, we're gonna reply these questions for you with new content and a new video. And I hope see you soon.
All right. Looking forward. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay, bye bye.